when he was like in his like 11, 12, 13 years old, he had a close buddy who was also a very clever, bright young boy, you can only imagine. And they went round finding like artifacts. I think like 16th or 17th century artifacts, like completely amateur child archaeologists. And they found loads of bits and bobs and took them to, was it like the Ashmolean Museum or one of the museums in Oxford?
Yes.
And it was so good, they're actually in the collection. They actually ended up in the museum on display. And they threw them a little dinner, just like these really, really precocious children doing the work of professional archaeologists. And they're like 12 or 13 or whatever. Again, just an indication of the type of kid he was. Like an oddball, but sort of undeniably a genius.
Truly.
Right?
Truly.
And then you mentioned the bicycle trips. So his father wasn't quite rich enough because his auntie, his father's sister, still gave them like, I don't know, like £500 a year or something, which is quite a lot of money still. Yeah. So he couldn't afford to have horses and ride, but he could afford to buy him a bicycle. And the Edwardian period was sort of the golden age of bicycles. So Ned got a bicycle and his brothers. And yeah, as you mentioned, did bicycling holidays where we would bicycle around Europe. He's a bit older by this point.
Sure.
Crazy distances. Or cycling all around Europe, just that. And going to look at loads and loads of castles. He was fascinated by castles.
Yeah, the cathedral in Chartres, I think, had a really profound effect on him. He said that was one of the most exquisite, example. That was another thing to say about Lawrence's early philosophy on life, is that he was very much informed by his idealism. He was very much attracted to the ideas of William Morris and his neo-medievalism. Not so much Morris's socialism, but particularly the neo-medieval ideals. And I actually think this might have something to do with why, in the early days of the war and in his time in Syria, he liked the Arabs so much because they reminded him of a pre-modern people. I think he was a bit like Tolkien in that respect, that he was very much had a love and a nostalgia for the pre-modern world. Yeah, in many ways.
No, definitely. I mean, first and foremost, he was like a historian and a linguist. First and foremost, right?
Right.
So, as an undergrad, I think his undergrad dissertation was about castles of the Near East, castles of the Middle East, and it was so good. The college threw him a special dinner. He got a first, I'm pretty sure. And they, like, the dons of the college threw him like a special dinner, like completely unprecedented. They were like, not only is this good, it's one of the best things I've ever read.
Yeah, an original contribution to...
And he's an undergrad. Undergrads don't really do that.
No, I couldn't do it.
Right? I couldn't do it. No, I couldn't do it now. I don't think I could do that now. No. Right? Give me 10 years, I wouldn't produce something that good, probably. Right. So, once again, bit of genius. So, he also went travelling again, right? So he went to Syria. And again, Syria today is not the same as what they mean by Syria in like the pre-World War I days or throughout this whole story. When we talk of Syria, it's not the same thing as the modern nation state of Syria. So anyway, he went out to Syria and travelled around Syria, again, before the war years, when he's still young, really young. But there's one or two, I think, interesting incidents worth mentioning there. Because at one point, he actually went to Aqaba, right? He went to Aqaba, which I'll put a map up, or we'll put a map up at some point to show you where that is on the map. And it's where the Red Sea split at the top of the Red Sea splits into two.
Yes,
you've got like that V-shaped bit of the bottom of the Sinai Desert, and on the right-hand one, sorry, the eastern side of it, like a dagger pointing up towards Amman, really, almost. At the top of that is Aqaba, right? And Aqaba plays an important part in our story when we get to the war years. But he actually went there when he was young, before the war. What a strange thing for an Edwardian boy that's interested in history to go there of all places?
Yeah, because there was a particular I can't quite remember what the nature of like an Arabist or a historian, this Doughty chap, and Lawrence, he wrote a book called like Arabia Deserta or something, and Lawrence absolutely doted on this book, thought it was one of the greatest books ever written, and because of his work with the Ashmolean, they put him into contact with Doughty, so Lawrence could say, "Oh, I want to go to Syria," and Doughty said, "Don't." And he was like, "Don't do it. It's like, it's really hard living. You'll never manage it." And Lawrence was like, "No, I am going. I didn't ask for your opinion on whether I asked for your advice on what to do once I've gone."
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah.
This idea that he's fearless is just absolutely true. It's proven to be true again and again and again.
Yeah.
Where people are like, "Are you sure you want to do this insanely dangerous thing?" And he's like, "Yeah." Don't even ask me. Yeah, yes. They're like, that's kind of suicidally stupid.
Yes.
He's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing." So yeah, like going to Syria. But before World War One, well, not just before World War One, but particularly before World War One, there was lots and lots of espionage going on all over the world. People knew that almost certainly war was coming. They didn't necessarily know break out into a type of world war, but all over the place. People are doing espionage against each other. So, like, for example, Germans trying to make sure their maps of the English coast are perfect. English trying to make sure that their maps of the German coast is perfect, and on and on and on. Britain's trying to find out the exact nature of where the Ottomans are garrisoning their men. You know, yes. So in some people thought that where he went to Aqaba before the war, as a young person, sort of nominally just as a tourist or as an amateur historian or archaeologist, it's like actually maybe there probably was some sort of espionage element to it.
Right.
There was this thing called the Survey of Palestine Exploration Committee.
Yeah, that's what it did just before the war kicked off, wasn't it?
And
mapping the Sinai.
So, why are you going to the Sinai and Aqaba and swimming out to an island to get a better view of things? Is it so that you can go back to the Foreign Office, the War Office, the Colonial Office, and tell them that there is or isn't a naval base or a garrison here or there? There almost certainly was an element of espionage to that, probably.
Definitely.
Right, so I mean, should we just get on to sort of the warriors? Is there any other sort of big important?
Well, I think it's probably quite important to mention that when he goes to do the dig at Carchemish, that how much detail you want to go into. So
this is still before the war.
Yes, still before the war. But I think one of the most important things to mention about it is one of the people that he meets there, which is this young Syrian boy, Dahoum. And I feel like Dahoum plays a very brief but absolutely vital role in Lawrence's life, because obviously when you read the 7 Pillars of Wisdom, the dedication to it at the beginning is dedicated to S.A., and Dahoum's real name was Salim Ahmed. And Lawrence absolutely doted on this boy, absolutely doted on him. He poured all his hopes and dreams into Dahoum in many ways, because there'd been one point where Lawrence had gotten very, very ill out in Syria at the dig at Carchemish and almost died. And Dahoum and this other Arab gentleman, Hamaldi, saved his life out there. And so towards the end of 7 Pillars, Lawrence, he never explicitly says it, but with the foundational knowledge, it's very easy to understand that a lot of the things that he did in the war, and part of the reason why he was so invested in the Arab cause, was the fact that in some way he felt like, well, if we can break the Arabs free from the Turks, this young boy, this young Dahoum, can grow up in his own free sovereign nation. He can grow up, with his own people in his own world and not have to be at the mercy of, corrupt Turkish governors all of his life. And so obviously Lawrence would find out towards the end that Dahoum actually died whilst he was out in the war, but nonetheless that that need to do that was very much driven by that relationship that he'd had very early in his life.
So maybe it's worth saying now about his sexuality and stuff.
Mm.
So it seems like he was in love with that Dahoum.
Mm.
Like whether they actually had a sexual relationship or not, no one knows. I suspect not.
I suspect not.
But he was in love with him though.
Yes.
Because what is the actual dedication? It's really weird. It's like, I dedicate the stars and the whole cosmos to you.
It's really dramatic.
It's way over the top, right? I can't bother find it, but it's like, you're the be all and end all of my life and stuff. And yeah, as I say, they probably didn't have a homosexual carnal relationship.
No.
Nonetheless, he loved him.
He did love him.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Okay. So that's odd. So it seems like Lawrence Arabia was homosexual, but didn't really have any partners or anything.
No.
And in fact, seems to have been something approaching asexual. He didn't like to be touched at all.
No.
Apparently, a friendly grasp of the shoulder or a slap on the back or shaking hands, he hated it. It made his skin crawl. He didn't want to. He didn't like anything touchy-feely at all, let alone sex.
Right.
He was just.
Yeah.
He was like, yeah.
There's one.
Bit odd. But
yeah.
Okay.
There was a family friend, Janet Laurie, who he allegedly proposed to in about 1910.
Right.
But she recounts it and says it came out of nowhere. Like there was there's no hint that he had any romantic feelings for me, but I was just, around at the family home in Oxford one time, and he locked the door, got down on one knee, proposed, and she said, and it was just so absurd and out of the blue that, like, as a reaction, she just sort of laughed it off.
Right,
and that's the only evidence we've ever had of any sort of female interest that he's ever shown.
If you would like to see the full version of this premium video, please head over to lotuseaters.com and subscribe to gain full access to all of our premium content.